It would tell us if you were recording.
About now?
Yes.
Okay, good. Where are you seeing this, that it's being recorded? Because I don't see anything.
Top left corner.
Yeah.
Has a little red recording dot.
Okay.
You don't, maybe we get that.
I apologize for being so late. My computer is doing some funky things today. My whiteboard is not working at all. So I'm going to have to try to do things on paint today for what we talk about. So I want to go over roofing with you a little bit. And that's going to be the topic for today, is roofing. And actually, let's see, I can go ahead and open that so that you guys can get to that. And I'm going to try to cover everything that's in that portion of it. And so, yeah, you should be able to see everything, including the test now. Okay, cool. All right, so let's talk about the different types of roofing. Now, roofing is basically the material that we put on a roof to keep it waterproof. And there's tons and tons and tons of different types up there. The first one that I want to talk about is rolled roofing. And after I talk about it, I'm not going to ever say anything else about it again, except for it's junk. This is basically a roll of shingle. Okay, it's just one great big solid rolled shingle. They're crappy made. They're not made to last very long. Okay, so when you're talking about shingles, and that's the most common one that we have around here is the asphalt shingles. You know, they're rated for 25, 30, 40, 50 years. This stuff is not rated for more than 5 years. All right, so that's why I say it's junk. It's cheap, all right, but it's super, super junky. So, you know, it's just, again, it is just a mess. So basically what it is just a great big piece of asphalt. And, you know, when we're looking at this, you know, I'm seeing some different pictures up here, but not all. That's not even rolled roofing. And that is not either. That's rolled roofing. Rolled roofing is a roll of shingle. That's it right there. So it's just junk. All right. It's not made for, it's temporary fix, better than plastic. And that's what, you know, basically what it boils down to is that. And it generally is 36 inches wide. So it's 36 inches wide. And a lot of times you'll see maybe a 3-inch overlap on that. And that's something else that I want to talk about. So actually, before we get started on this, let's go over here and talk about the pitch a little bit. So the code talks about different pitches. And so to start with, let's say less than 412 pitch. All right. So what that means, and that's rise over run. Actually, it's not pitch, and I'm sorry that I keep calling that. So when we're talking about rise over run, just to kind of refresh your memory, we have a rise. Actually, I've got that going the wrong way. Let's try this again. All right, so the rise generally is 12 that we talk about, which is 1 foot. And then a 4 is how far it goes up. So it goes over 12 inches and up 4. And that gives us that angle right there. And that is what is called a 4 in 12 or 4 over 12. I've seen it 100,000 different ways. Rise over run. So this is the rise and this is the run. Now this is the unit. All right, so this is the unit rise over run. So we're talking about the unit rise and the unit run, not the total. So, you know, if we're looking at a building, then we have the span here, which is from end to end. Now, if we're talking about a shed roof, the span and the run are the same, run and span. But when we're talking about a gable roof like this, half of that span is the run. And then the total rise would be from point A to point B going up and down. So this is the rise. And then you'll see diagonal, line length, a couple of different things there, but this is what that's talking about. That's the diagonal, sorry, not diagonal, diagonal, line length, hypotenuse. So, you know, it goes by a bunch of different names there. And so that is where we end up with that. Now, let's see, how can I there's no way to just erase the whole thing like on my whiteboard, so I just got to back up a little bit. This thing is, when I get off of here today, you know, at the end of this class, man, I'm going to have a fit with this computer. It only takes me back so far. So then I get to waste your time and mine trying to erase everything. Actually, no, there's a different way. I can just go and hit delete. There we go. I'm learning. Okay, so let's talk about that rise over run one more time. So when I've got my rafter, I've got a bird's mouth here that is generally cut. I've got an overhang. So here's where the edge of the building is. I've got my studs going in here. And then up here is the center of the roof, and I'm going to have a ridge board up there. So when you hear me say line length, basically what I'm talking about is an imaginary line coming up from the bird's mouth to the center of the line there. And then I've got a dimension here that I'm talking about the line length. And the line length is the same as the diagonal, the hypotenuse, and so forth, because you've got this imaginary triangle that runs from the edge of the bird's mouth to the center of the building and back over. So there's that imaginary line, and that imaginary triangle. We got the rise, we've got the run, and then we've got the diagonal in here. And so that line length is basically this portion, the diagonal of the run. If we want to figure out our overhang, then this is what our overhang is going to be here. And to get the total of this, so let me explain something. So if you're using your construction calculator, and let's say that the span of the building, and I didn't draw the other side there, the span of the building, we'll say we're going to keep it nice and simple. We're going to say it's 20 feet. That means my run is going to be equal to 10 feet. And so I can put it, and I need my rise over run here, and I'm going to keep it at 4 and 12 right now. So I'm going to punch in 4-inch pitch, and then I'm going to punch in 10-foot run. So by doing that, then I can ask for the rise, which is 3 foot 4 inches. And then I can ask for the diagonal just by punching the diagonal button in. And that is my line length of 10, 6.5. 10, 6.5. Now, what I need to do is I need to figure out how much my overhang is and everything else. And I lied to you. This is the projection. The overhang is this portion here. That's what we generally see in a plan. And I'm going to give this as 16 inches. Somebody asked me a question the other day when we were in the lab, what's the best length, or what's the best overhang here? And basically that runs with whatever you're using to put in the soffit. And that soffit is this portion right here. That's a closed soffit. And then an open soffit, of course, I would just put it right up against the bottom of the rafter there. So basically, you know, we're taking a 4x8 sheet of plywood here, and then I'm cutting it. So however I cut it, so if I cut it 3 times, each one of those are going to be 16 inches. All right, and if I cut it 4 times, then it's going to be a foot. If I cut it 2 times, it's going to be 24 inches. And you wouldn't want to do anything outside of those 3. So you got 12 inches, you got 16 inches, and you got 24 inches. Those are the best ones to use because you can cut them out of a piece of plywood. If you use any size or any other material other than a plywood, then the whole thing changes a little bit different. So for this particular instance, we're going to keep it at 16 inches. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my run of 10 feet and I'm going to add 16 inches to that to end up with 11.4 for a new modified run. So that is my modified run here, 11.4. And so I can punch that in as my run. I still have a 4-inch pitch. And now I can determine that I'm going to need at least a 12-foot board here, maybe a little bit more, to get 11 foot, 11 3/8 of an inch out of that length there. Now just remember that, you know, wherever this is cut, we're not counting this portion here. So a 14 or 16 foot piece of lumber is what's going to have to be cut out of there. Now, keep in mind that this is still going to the center point there. It's not the actual length. I just used this as a quick and dirty way to figure out how big of a piece of lumber that I need there. Okay, so go and wipe this. All right, so less than, and I got off a little bit, less than a 412 rise over run. My underlayment. What is underlayment? So let's go back over here and see what underlayment is. Roofing underlayment. So underlayment is what we put down on roofs to put our shingles on. So if a shingle blows up or something else happens, then we have something to protect it that's underneath that. Now, it used to be in the old days, we just used, and this is tar paper, builder's felt. This type of stuff has been used for years and years and years and years and years. This is the new thing. Some people call it titanium paper. Others still refer to it as just underlayment. So you have different things there. And then you've got the really good stuff, which is the ice and water shield here. This stuff is sticky back. So when you unroll this, you have a little piece of paper that you got to pull off of the back of it. And then this sticks down. And this guy, what this guy's doing here, he's putting it in the valley. And he's already put this piece in. He's running his hand down to pull this down into the valley. And then he's going to press this down over here. This stuff is self-sealing, so that if you put a nail through it, then that rubber is going to adhere around that nail, and you're not going to have any leaks in that. Well, that's basically the same purpose as your underlayment. However, that doesn't happen in cold weather. This will only self-seal when it is warm enough for it to melt and seal back around the nail. Now, the titanium type paper is a self-sealing membrane as well, but it's just not as good as the ice and water shield. This is good, this is better, and this, of course, is the best because it is self-sticking. Now, depending on that underlayment, if we are on a roof that is less than 4 and 12, then when we go to put our underlayment on, the first thing that we want to do is we want to double that first layer. All right, again, this stuff is generally about 36 inches, and you're going to put 2 layers right there on the first one, and 2 layers to start. And then I'm going to change colors on this. We're going to have another one that is going to come down, and we're going to offset this or overlay 19 inches. And then every other one is going to be the same way. It's going to overlay 19 inches all the way up the roof. And that is because this roof is kind of laid down a little bit. When we have a roof that is above a 4 and 12, so greater than 412 rise over run, then we only have to put down one layer of underlayment across the bottom. And we then can go with our other courses up through here, and we only have to overlay them about 3 to 4 inches. So this here only has to be a 4-inch overlap. All right, so this is a biggie. So just remember that when you're less than 4 and 12, you got to do 2 layers to start, and they must overlap 19 inches. When you're greater than 4 and 12, then you can do a single layer. You can do 1 layer on the first one, and then you only have to overlap 3 to 4 inches. I'm gonna put 3 to 4 inches on there. So just keep that in mind. If you're using shingles, and I'll talk about that a little bit more, if you're using shingles, shingles cannot go less than 2 and 12. That's it. That's the limit on shingles. So if you go any less than 2 and 12, and I'm talking almost flat, a portion of my roof in my house is actually, I want to say it's 1 1/4 to 12, and you just have to go metal or some other type, and I'll explain all of that. So this is your underlayment, and these are code. All right, so if you're going to put this down, these are your codes here that you have to use when you're doing that. Okay, so now we can start going. Remember the rolled roofing, crap. Built-up roof. A built-up roof is not necessarily used on a house, and because most houses are not flat, and that is the whole point of this, is because you can make a flat roof on this. And so let's look at how this is built. So in this, so we have several different things. We've got that deck surface. Okay, so this is going to be, well, let's see. Let me go back over here and explain to it a little bit more. So on a flat surface, okay, draw anytime. When we're doing these buildings, generally, like I say, we've got a flat deck over here, and this deck is made up of metal joists in most cases. So they kind of look like that. Metal joists are making a move on the residential scene now. So let me show you a couple of pictures of that. So metal joists. So these are metal joists here, and they're fairly complex, as you can see. But now let's see, where can I go? Let me just go take you to R and R Ironworks. Whoops. That's located here in Morgan, and I just know that they build these types of trusses. And so this is what I'm talking about as far as a metal rafter, and you've probably seen the barns and stuff make. These are making a move into the residential world. I actually have 2 houses that I'm drawing right now that they're gonna put these in here. And so if you'll notice, you've got your metal frame here, your metal joist in there, and then you have purlins that goes on top of that run the whole way down through here. All right, so those are the 2 differences in that. So in a residential scene, you're going to use it and give it a gable or a slope. In commercial, you're not going to. It's just going to be pretty much like that on the flat with a steel deck on top. So in the commercial setting, we're going to do this, and we're going to put what is typically done is a 2-inch metal steel deck on it, and it looks similar to this. It's corrugated all the way down, and you get, all the way down. And then over top of that, then generally there's some sort of typically a wood type plywood or something put on there. And then from there, let me just go back over to the other one here where I was a minute ago. So there's that deck surface, and then we're going to put rigid insulation on top of this deck surface. Now, here's the thing. The insulation is sold sloping. So you can slope this all, slope it down to either a drain, a scupper hole, or so forth like that. And if you need, after this, I want to say these are like 3 inches on one side, and you can get them down to dang near nothing on the other. I think you can get them down to like half an inch or something. But so if we need to continue building this up, then basically what we're going to do is we're going to put a piece of flat on there. So this piece here, we were at our max at 3 inches there. Then we're going to put a piece of flat on there, and then we can continue on up with some more of the sloped to build this on up. And this could be, I've seen it as thick as 12 inches. So depending on how big of a roof it is and how much the slope. So in this case, we're looking for that thing to slope down to a scupper hole or a drain, and I'll explain that. As a matter of fact, let me put that on my list to talk about drain and a scupper. Okay, so and that's, and then from there on we can go with asphalt, and this cover board that can be used sometimes but not always. I have seen them put it right directly down onto the rigid insulation, but I wouldn't recommend that. And you can also buy the rigid insulation connected to this cover board that's already connected from the factory. Homosote, I think, is one company that makes this stuff. And it's rather expensive. But, and of course, it's not going to show me together on insulation for some reason. There, that's a sit panel, but it's made by Homosote, and you get the gist of it with this particular thing. You can buy this with only one board on it, so you got a board and then the insulation underneath it, and you can also get that in a sloped as well. Again, it runs a little bit more expensive. So then you're going to start putting these ply sheets is what they're talking about. And it's nothing more than builder's felt. So when we're looking at the built up roof here, this is nothing more than builder's felt, tar, builder's felt, tar, builder's felt, tar, builder's felt, tar, so forth, so forth, so forth, and so forth. And so you're going to have several of these layers, generally 5 to 9 layers that go on. And this stuff, I'm sure you've seen them bring this big machine, this tar boiler up on the roof via crane or something, and then they're running around with buckets of tar that they mop on, and I mean they mop on. You know, basic, well, here's a, you know, super duper fancy one, but you'll see a lot of them right there. You'll see them a lot, just mop that stuff on, and then somebody is laying that stuff off. So this is a built up roof. And then after it's all said and done, then we're going to scatter gravel across it. Now this gravel does two things. The first thing that it does is that it bounces the sunlight off of the roof. So I've done this every time now. So we've got that, we've got this little bit of gravel up here, and this gravel is shiny. You know, it has reflective properties to it. And when the sun is up here beating down on this, then it basically just reflects that sunlight back off of the roof and keeps it from absorbing into the roof and heating this up. If we didn't have it, and like in some of these pictures, like this one here, we don't have it, this roof's going to get really hot, and you can actually melt this tar in here and have a problem. So we want to try to keep this as cool as possible. The second reason that this is on there is for wind purposes. So when we get a high wind going across through there, then we have what's called uplift. So if we're moving all this air across the surface of this roof here, this tends to want to pull up because there's no air. This air here is trying to replace the air that the wind is moving out of the way. And so, you know, high pressure moves to low pressure. So down here we've got a high pressure system situation rather, and here we have a low pressure situation. And then of course, so this is going to move upward into that low pressure situation, and it'll pull the roof clean off of it. All right, so that is a built up roof. Has the gravel on it. If it's got gravel on it, it's a built up roof. I'm gonna go ahead and close some of these as I go along. All right, so now let's talk about a membrane roof. So a membrane roof is what it is. It's a single membrane. In the old days when they first came out with this, there it is, EPDM rubber. What is EPDM rubber? It is nothing more than an inner tube. An inner tube is EPDM. EPDM meaning. Big old long word, and I can't never remember it. EPDM. Ethanol, propylene. Yeah, exactly. It's rubber. That's all you need to know. It's rubber. It's EPDM is just nothing more than rubber. So there, I told you what it was. I can't pronounce it, but there it is. So this single membrane is a big old piece of rubber that they stretch across through there, and it is held with some metal on the outside and some metal on the inside. So let's look at this particular detail right there. Actually, let me just see if there's some metal roof details on there that just save me a bunch of trouble. Yes, maybe. That's multiply, that's build up. So this is this would be for a built up roof. Okay, so we're going to put a cant strip in here, and it just turns up the wall. We use those builder's felt, whatever that we're using there, and then we're gonna mechanically fasten it, and then we're going to put some sheet metal flashing over the top of that, and that's going to keep water from getting in around the sides there. But pretty much the that single ply roof is exactly the same way. There we go. So we've got the single ply here, and it's turned up and glued to the parapet. Let me show you what a parapet is. I keep forgetting that, you're not familiar with what is a parapet? So this is a parapet. You'll see these a lot of times on commercial buildings, and they're basically there so that you don't see all this crap up on the roof. It's a store, you know, when you're looking at it, there, when you're looking up at the building, you just think, oh, there's the roof. Well, no, there's a parapet that runs all the way around it so that we can set a big old air conditioner up here and you don't see that air conditioning unit or anything else up through there. And there's what that, you know, so they just build it up there. It's just a blind spot. Okay, so when we're talking about this parapet, it's always best to slope the tops of those parapets, whether you're using, it doesn't matter what kind of material that you're using on your roof, you want to make sure that you slope the top of that parapet, and it's best to slope the roof itself to a drainer scupper. And so then on the single ply, we're going to use some screws and some really big, those washers are probably about 2 inches in diameter, and they help hold this down so that, you know, the membrane doesn't pull through it. And then we can cover this with metal, or we can cover it with, actually, we probably could cover it with some more single ply membrane, and it's glued on here much the same way that PVC pipe is glued together. They use a cement that actually melts the rubber and makes it weld to itself. So that makes it really, really watertight there, but you can't just put a little bit here and put a little bit here. You gotta slap it full. I mean, you know, you basically got to mop that stuff on there, much the same way that we were doing with built-up roof and that tar. So this glue, and you can buy this glue by the 5-gallon bucket. It is so very much like the glue that you used to sniff in kindergarten. You know, it had to open it up in a jar, brown jar, and it had a little brush on the end of it, and always smelled so good. And so that's pretty much, it's called contact cement, and you can buy it by a 5-gallon bucket. It does exactly the same thing. It's a mess of a job. I mean, you definitely don't have any good clothes on when you're doing this type of stuff. So in the front, we talked about, let me back up one more, 2 more, 3 more. So, you know, in the front here, so let me show you that detail. And I just had it. Where was it? There. There's pretty much what we're doing there. We're doing very much the very same thing that we did. There is you know, how can I explain this? We've got a starter strip. Let me go back over here and just draw it out. We've got a starter strip. So here's our roof. We have the fascia coming down. We're going to put a starter strip on here that is just a piece of metal that brings it out just a little bit, probably not quite so much. Let me change colors here so it goes down. And I feel a sneeze coming on, so I don't know if that's maybe not. In this particular picture here, it's kind of hard to see. It looks like 2 pieces of metal on there. This is actually a gutter you're seeing here on that, but this is rolled over. So we'll say that blue is this is our single ply membrane. We're going to roll it over, and we're going to fasten that booger in much the same way that we fastened it back here. We got those big washers on there. So we're going to screw that to the wall there. Sorry, wait a minute. Back up. Bam, bam. Forgot something. I've got to put the flashing on first. And then the rubber goes on over that. that's showing another piece of metal over the top of that. So if that were the case, then we're going to have this other piece of metal going across there, and then we have to glue that right here. So there's actually, the rubber has to break over the side and come down, because we don't want any leaks coming in here at all, inside of our building, so that when we have any kind of water that's going to come across through here, we want it to make sure that it goes up and over and then down and can drip off of there. If any water gets on here, we've probably put several pieces, maybe 2 pieces of rubber across through here, and then it goes in there, and then it just drips down from there, and we don't have any leakage that's going to run back up under the building and drip down here, because that would not, that's bad stuff right there. Now, there's several different ways to put this down. Just like that glue that we were talking about, you can glue these down, and that's what's done here. There's glued down. I'm not seeing any other pictures, but I do want to show you. I want to talk about one thing. So in this case, especially PVC, you can glue, the bottom of this directly down onto the deck or the insulation. But if you don't glue that, and this was a pretty cool little thing. So what you would do is you would put this, it's round, it has a flange on it, and I don't remember, I always call it a hold down. It's got some holes in it, and it looks just like that, except this center portion right there, this portion here, has it has threads on it. And this is probably about 3 to 4 inches in diameter. I think you can get them anywhere from 2 inches to 4 inches in diameter. So there's several different sizes that you can get. And then, so what happens in this particular case, and this is to keep, remember that air that I was telling you about, wind's blowing on through here and it wants to pull it up. So if we don't glue it, then we have to use these hold downs. And what happens is we just pull our rubber up and over this thing. And then there is a screw cap that goes over top of this that screws right directly to all of those threads right there. So when you're seeing something like this, then basically you've got all these little circles, that are sticking up, and they're generally, I want to say they're about 6 feet apart. So you could have maybe 3 in that section right there. And actually, sorry, they wouldn't be that close to the edge. They'd be here. So ignore this one and that one. They wouldn't be close to the edge, and they probably wouldn't be here either. Basically, the only thing, you'd have these 2 center ones here. And so, as they go around that corner, you'd see those. And it's just a place where they got the hold downs in there. So, yeah. Anything else to talk about membranes? Membrane. Okay. So the most common, asphalt shingles. So there's tons and tons and tons of different types of asphalt shingles. So we have the simplest being a 3-tab shingle. And the 3-tab shingle is like that. Actually, I just seen a better picture. Yeah, there we go. 3-tab shingle. Of course, it's going to be a small picture. Couldn't find a big picture for the life of me. So this is the small picture, and I'm going to copy this image. Let's go back over here, and we're going to paste it. And let's talk about this 3-tab shingle. So the 3-tab shingle it's basically got 3 tabs on it, and you have this little edge here that's running down through here that has tar in it. So if, let's say for instance, we're going to, and I'm going to come back and show you the same thing in a manufactured setting. So we've got our roof here. We need to put the first piece down. If we put the first piece down, notice that there's a hole here and a hole here. So a lot of people, I won't say contractors because I don't want to, you know, if a roofing contractor knows what he's doing, he's not going to do this. A lot of people take this and they turn it upside down. And this goes down here and the tabs go up here. So, you know, it's upside down. And what they're doing is, let's just do this right quick. Nope, wrong one. Wow, where'd it go? There we go, down here at the bottom. Okay, so here is our shingle, and they will take this and they'll turn it upside down. So here's the bottom of the roof here. God mighty, come on. Here's the roof, here's the end of the roof. And then they're going to nail this down. They're going to put nails here, 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 and there. Then they're going to take this piece the right way and they're going to put one right over top of it with it offset. So they're going to offset this a little bit. So here's going to be the first little tab, the second little tab, and this is going to go over here. You know, there'll be another one underneath there. So this is going to be where the shingle is placed. Now, here's the problem. See that that tar right there? That tar is there for a reason. There's no tar down here. So when we're looking at this and the wind picks up and blows up, it's going to roll that shingle up and possibly could tear it off. All right, so this shingle here has been nailed here. All right, so there's nothing down here on this shingle to, you know, make it work. It just doesn't work out right. So if you don't have starter strips, this is what you do. You're going to take the shingle and you're going to cut it right through there. And that's what you're going to have. And then you're going to put 4 nails right on the edge of the roof. Back up one. Maybe I can learn this thing as I go along. Okay, so again, I'm gonna have nails. I'm gonna 4 nails right across through here. Then I'm gonna take my next shingle here. And I'm gonna place it right over that. So notice that this does not line up with those. I'm going to put it right there. So underneath this, there's going to be shingle underneath it. Not a nail, going to be shingle. We're going to start off with a small piece over here, and this is going to go continuous all the way across the roof. And then we put these on there. Messed up, didn't I? Going to put these right over top of that so that they do not line up. Bam, just like that. So then we go back and we're going to offset it. Remember when we were doing our brick or our block work, masonry work, we had what was called a running bond. And this is what that running bond is. Always, always, always turn the pack over of shingles and read what the manufacturer's recommendations are. Not too long ago, I had contractors that would tell me, no, you can't put underlayment on a roof because it makes the shingles burn up faster. Well, guess what? The manufacturer recommends it. So your roof goes to hell in a handbasket, and you call the insurance company. Was it installed by the manufacturer's recommendations? Well, this contractor that we had said that the underlayment burned it up. Well, what does the manufacturer say? Well, the manufacturer said to put it on. Well, I'm not paying for it. Insurance will not pay for it if they have not been put on correctly. So you as a contractor, if you think this is going to burn up your roof and you don't put on that tar paper and the roof goes bad, then the homeowner is going to sue you. So always, forever, turn that package over and read the back label of everything that you ever put on a house. You know, I know I'm bad for it too, guys. You know, we love to get headstrong and do things that we think we know what we're doing. But, you know, if all else fails, my father used to say, if all else fails, read the instructions. So that was a 3-tab shingle. And now let's talk about the architectural shingle. The architectural shingle, notice that it has these dark places in the shingle. Basically, what that is to give you a, a faux effect on shadows. So if we're looking at this roof here, there's your 3-tab shingle. Okay, you got a little bit of discoloration that's mixed up in there. But then over here, you see all these dark spaces in there, and it makes it look like a shadow. So what we're trying to do here, this is what we're trying to copy this wood look. All right. So with the asphalt shingle, we're trying to, where did I lose this? Oh, there we are. So with the architectural shingle, it is a thicker shingle. It's a heavier shingle. It lasts longer. The 3-tab shingle, the best I think you can get out of them is like 25 years. And that's with good weather, no hail, no wind, no high winds or anything like that. The architectural shingle is a little thicker. So basically there's 2 layers here. This is one layer, and then this is a layer on top of it. So this makes it very heavy, and it again, it lasts longer, and it gives you a nicer look too as well. So I mean, this is okay. This will get you by. This is a heck of a sight better than the rolled roofing that I was talking about. Rolled roofing gives you 5 years. This will give you 25 years. You can get up in excess of 50 years on this. So the architectural shingle is a much better one. So let's talk about the exposure on this. So you'll see here that the architectural shingles, they recommend a 5 7/8 exposure, and a 3-tab shingle, they're talking a 5 7/8 inch exposure. Exposure is what's actually seen. So if we go back here, this is the exposure of that shingle. Remember, it looked like that, but then, you know, from here down, from there down is the exposure. So you're going to take your tape and you're going to try to measure off 5 5/8 each time, right? Probably not. All right. Now this is one of those very slim things that, you know, you may go against the manufacturer's instructions. They said 5 5/8 on a 3-tab, and then a 5 7/8 on an architectural. Well, these don't work out to anything even. But if we were to go too much, in other words, if I were to try to get a 6-inch exposure, then I'm going to be in default of, or I'm going to be in failure of the manufacturer's recommendations. On either one of those, if I go 6 inches, that, you know, can't do that. However, if I go 5.5 inches, which is less than what the manufacturer said, then I'm okay, because I'm doubling, I'm making more shingles or less exposure that's going to be out into the sunlight. So let's think about this. We're going to go up on the roof, and we need to snap a chalk line from one side to the other. So what we're going to do is we're going to come up here with our pencil, and we're going to make a mark every 11 inches. Okay, so, and I tell you, I've had some students across the years, you know, okay, so I marked the first one 11 inches. What's the next one going to be? 22. Okay, what's the next one going to be? 33. All right, the next one is going to be 44, and so forth, and so forth, and so forth. Yes, I have actually had students ask me what comes next. I promise you. So you're going to do that on either side, and every 11 inches, you're going to make a mark, and then you're going to chalk a line. And you're going to do this entire roof the very same way. Every 11 inches. It's a little off. All the way up your roof. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to put that starter strip on all the way across. Okay, and we're going to offset it. And then we're going to start with our first row of shingles, and I'm going to show you what a 3-tab is first. So I'm going to change colors over on this thing. This next one is going to be lined to the edge. Sorry, to the edge. It's going to go right on the top of that, and we're going to set it off just like that, all the way across, making sure that we don't line up anything stupidly. All right, we don't want to line up anything. So then I'm going to go with my next one on my 3-tab, and I'm going to take this, I'm going to take that 3-tab, and if you'll look at the top here, you'll find that there are 3 little notches across that shingle on the top. And that means, well, this little notch right here, you can cut this off, and then you can start the new shingle directly on there. And it's the bottom of that sucker. I probably drew it a little bit weird. Is going to go here. And it's going to have a small one, and then you got the bigger one. All right. So we can do a full. We can do the first cut. We can do the second cut. Well, we don't go back and do this third cut because we have some of these pieces already left over. So we can take this piece here and put it there if we need to. Try not to use single pieces if you can help it, because you know you're putting extra nails in on such a small piece here. So you'd have to put 2 nails on that. Don't ever put 1 nail, ever, because what'll happen is it'll turn over. You know, you got 1 nail on there, wind gets all that thing, it will turn. So make sure that none of these line up. Now, if you've done a really good job with your shingles, with the 3-tab especially, yeah, let's use that one. Then if you're walking down, you know, if you're walking into the house, all of these little lines right there are going to line up. Every single one of them. And they look good when they're done right. When they're not done right, they look bad. Let's see, 3 shingles installed wrong. Let's see what we get for that one. Well, these are just these are nail pops. So nails have worked their way back up through and pushing this back up. So that's not, and there's what I was, that's a nail pop right there. So it's pushed back up, and for some odd reason, it's wore a hole in the shingle. Not exactly what I was looking for. It's just missing. Of course, I couldn't find it if I wanted to, because that is usually, that's a, you know, that's a dead giveaway that somebody didn't know what they were doing when they don't have these lines mixed. You know, it's architectural shingles. So you got to get an idea on that. So let's talk about this valley. This is a poor job on that, but let me explain to you why. So when we do those valleys, let's see, select all, delete. So we have a valley on the roof. I'm trying to think how's the best way to do this. So I'm looking down on the house, and here's going one roof and here's going another. So I'm going to lay this one row of shingles up here, and it's going to go past. All right, we're just going to keep on going past it. And then on the other side, we're going to lay this one on, and it's going to go past it. And then we're going to alternate back and forth, and we're going to put this next one on. It's going to be up here, and so forth and so forth and so forth and so forth. So these are going to, you know, hang on just a second. I've got to find a picture of this. And these are called a woven shingle valley. Let's see if I can find a better picture. I can't spell valley for beans. There we go. Perfect picture. Awful small. There we go. Much bigger. There's what I was trying to show you. So, and you've got to alternate these back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Now, when they're done correctly, you're going to have a corner in these that run a perfectly straight line if you've done it right. Now, let's go back over here to this one that was done incorrectly. Okay, so this is oh, so they've done incorrectly. Here's what they've done is, well, I can't exactly tell where the corners are. 1, 2, 3. It looks like it kind of does a little circle here and comes back around. Let me move up one. I think I've seen another picture of it. No. That is definitely not correct. That's definitely not correct. So you see how this runs up the hill? So that means water can come down and go right in this little hole here. So this is definitely not woven right. This, where these two come together right through here, should be down here in the valley themselves. So that is a terrible, terrible look. So yeah, when you're doing that, try to keep those crosses going right down. Now, if you lay off all of your roof, then you're going to have a good looking roof. If you lay the whole roof out every 11 inches, then that way you have a 5.5 inch overlay or 5.5 inch exposure, and it's going to really look good. Try to keep that, you know, try to pay real close attention to that. There are other types of valleys. In this particular case, this is going to be a I'm trying to think what it's called. I'm lost. I can't think what it's called. There's another picture of it. But that's another way to do the valley as well. There is, I wish I could think of the name. Let me just do a search. Valley shingling types. And spell it right. woven, closed. There you go. Cut, closed, or closed, cut, and open. So let's just go right here right quick, see if we've got a couple of examples. This is an open. And that's what he's doing there, is an open. And there is no closed. So let me back up. Open. Now this is, I prefer this type of open. Here's another picture of it, because it has this nice flashing in here that prevents, so if there's water rushing down off of the roof here, it's kind of like a dam that gets it running down the hill rather than allowing it to run up the other side. There's that cut, closed cut, and this must be all wrong methods here. Notice how the cut is way up off of the side. It should be almost dead center. I thought I seen a better view of that a minute ago. I don't know what they're pointing at here, but this is that closed cut. So this side goes all the way across, and then this is just cut down there. So you got one way to do it. Now, let's say if you're doing it on here, this is being your main roof. Your main roof would want to be the cut, and this would be, in other words, your main roof would be this, and your smaller roofs would be this, which goes on first, because water is going to come down off of this main roof at a greater velocity and hit these pieces here. So you'd want it to, see, if this was the greater velocity, then water would come down and go right up under that, and we don't want that. So this is the greater velocity. This is not one of my favorite type of valleys. I prefer the open with the, I prefer the open with the V. This is called a Veed valley flashing, or I do the weave. Well, there's the weave, but it's a bad, no, that's the open. That's the weave, but it's not a very pretty weave. Try to get, I always put my knee down in the valley here when I'm putting these up before I put my next nail up. In other words, when I put my knee down here before I put this nail on. I'll have the nails up over here, put my knee into it, and then put this nail on, because if you don't, it'll stand up a little bit. It won't lay down correctly, and it won't look very good. So let's see. What else? Shingles, is anything else? Oh yeah, the top piece. So the caps that go on here. So when you come up to the top, nowadays you are going to almost always have a ridge vent that goes on there, because we found out that ridge vents along with soffit vents allow free airflow much better than we ever had before, than the valley or the gable vents that we had. So so in the old days, we had gable vents in the corners or in the gables of the house. And if we're looking at the, the whole house, we got this little thing here, we've got one over here as well. And then, so you get a little bit of air coming through here, but down here, the air does not flow correctly. So that's not cool. So we need to make sure that we get air flowing everywhere through the house. So we've come up and we found that this ridge vent, along with a soffit vent, allows better airflow for air to come up and run the entire edge of the roof. All right, so you've got a flat ceiling, got some insulation in here, and just keeping this going keeps our heat from penetrating down. So, you know, there's three ways that we can transfer heat. We've got radiation, which is this. This is radiation right here. Radiation is direct sunlight. Sunlight's come down, heating this roof up. And then inside of it, we have convection. So we're heating up the air in here. And by doing so, then if we keep this air flowing through here, then we're moving this convection around and getting it to leave the roof and keeping the roof as a whole cooler. Okay, so science takes, plays a big part of building a house. If you haven't had building science yet, I welcome you next fall if you want to. Okay, so we have these little plastic things that we can put down, and then we can add the shingle directly to that. We just nail right into it. You can see the nails, some of the nails there. It's probably not the best thing in the world. You don't want to see these nails if you can help it. So basically, this is open, holds the shingle up. Air can penetrate out through here. Air always leaves the attic, the ridge, unless you've got some wind blowing that might force wind into it. Most all air is going to come out of the ridge due to the rise of heat. So when we're putting these shingles, these cap shingles on, we need to learn which way the wind blows. So something to always look at when you're doing your house is, where does the house set in relation to north, south, east, and west? My house sets almost perfect, and the ridge of the roof runs north to south. Well, I don't have to worry about wind in the summertime, not here in Western North Carolina, because the wind don't blow. So I have to worry about wind in the wintertime, and the wind blows from the north or the northwest. So this is where, these are the directions that I have to worry about. So when I go and I do these shingles, I want to start over here and work my way this way. That way, when I'm looking at this, so the wind's blowing in this direction, I'm going to put this one on, and then I'm going to put this one on, and I'm going to put this one on. Much like we started from the bottom and worked our way up, so that the wind goes over top of these and will not blow rain or moisture into these shingles through here. We don't want anything to come in there. So make sure that you figure out where this is blowing and how your orientation of the house is when you're doing that. Now, when you get down here, you're going to find that you've got the last one. What do? You're going to have to put a couple of nails on this thing to hold it. Well, what you need to do is make sure that you get some mastic or some sort of roofing mastic, which is like tar, and cover those so you don't see those nails. Let's see. So there's what I was talking about. You're going to see those two nails. Of course, you're not going to have this whole thing there. No, not that. Where am I? There. Okay, so here, this fellow's putting a nail here. He's going to put a nail over here, and then he's going to caulk these. He's going to put some mastic over the top of them so they don't leak. So this is what he was doing when he got to there. And so whenever you buy architectural shingles, a good, easy, simple, cost-effective trick is to buy you some 3-tab shingles that are the same color. So here's your 3-tab shingle. Bam, bam. So what you're going to do is you're going to take this 3-tab shingle and you're going to cut these corners off. And they don't have to be perfect because you're not going to see them. So this is going to go away, this is going to go away, this is going to go away, and this is going to go away. And there you have your ridges, and that's what we're looking at right there. Didn't want to do that. That's what you're looking at right there. So that's, he's taken some shingles, and he's cut them off, and you know, he's got his nails in there after he has laid that over. Now you can buy, let's go back and look at some things. So starter strip. I've been telling you how to do this, you know, the old fashioned way, but you can buy starter strips, and that's what they look like. Okay, so these starter strips is just a piece of shingle that has solids through here. You break this in two, and let me ask you this, where does the tar go? Anybody know? The tar goes down, okay? You want that tar strip towards the edge of the roof because you want this to adhere to that shingle over top of it and keep it from flapping in the wind. Ridge and Valley, I think it's what it's called, Ridge and Valley. No, it's not Ridge and Valley, Ridge and Hip, that's what it's called. Ridge and Hip shingles. So you can also buy Ridge and Hip shingles. And I don't see any, but you can buy them. And they're already pre-cut. Let me back up here for a minute and do this. I'm trying to show you what they look like in a box. Let's go here. And that's not going to show us either. So anyway, they sell the Ridge and Hip shingles and the same color as the regular shingles, but they're already pre-cut, or they may be like the starter strip and just have a, you know, a perforated line that you can just easily snap and break at any given time, so that you don't have to sit there and cut all these like I was showing you how to cut them. So I don't see any of these. Okay, so anyway. All right, so I think I have run my mouth long enough on shingles. So let's move on. Standing seam roofing, standing seam. So now we're on to the metal roofing, and this is probably the most expensive way to go. And there's, you know, different types. You've got the V-rib, then the, you know, all bunch, the, well, that's not either. You got the this is raised metal, even though they're calling that flat, and you can see why they call it raised metal. And so when we're talking about raised metal or raised seam, sorry, then it works in a very odd way, but it works well. So you're going to put your first piece down, and it looks something like that. That's what a piece looks like. So that when you put your second piece down, then this goes over the top of that, like so. And then you're going to put your other piece down, like so. And a lot of times, the new type panels, these do not have a special seamer, okay? In the old days, we would put this down, and we had a machine that would go and it would crimp this closed, basically, right there, that you had to go through. But we found out that that took a lot of time, and the machine was very expensive, and not every contractor had it. So standing seam manufacturers went back and started remanufacturing these to where you didn't have to seal this seam here. It would just, you know, it's kind of like a not a Ziploc bag, but pop and go, I guess you could say. And that was the best way. So when you're putting these down, you're going to put your screw directly in the flat, and these screws, so here's your screw, and then they come with this neoprene washer under it. And then of course here you got your screw portion of it. You want to make sure that you don't set this too hard, because what happens is you push this, it's kind of like an inner tube. You're going to blow the rubber out, and then water can get in here and you'll cause a leak over time. So standing seam, and and then you've got all of these different other components that go with it. You want to look at a good site. Go to Union Carbide, I mean, yeah, Union Corrugation. That's it. Corrugating, Union Corrugating. They have a lot of nice, what am I trying to say? Details and stuff on here. So go to products, resources, find a contractor, literature, I think it is. So yes, so you can go through here and you can look at these detail sets, and they will tell you how to install this and all the different trims that you can have. And there's tons and thousands of different trims, different products, different brochures. So they have a very good site. This is probably the leading metal manufacturing company of roofing in the country. And so they do just a bang up site of the different types of panels. The master rib, you probably are familiar with that. That's what it looks like. You can buy some certain sections of that at Lowe's. A lot of the local metal people, they have bought these dies from Union Carbide or Union, I'll get this right in a minute, Union Corrugating. And they have, so they buy their sheet metal, which comes in like a 42-inch flat roll, and then it runs through a machine and makes this look on it and then cuts it off. So that is actually standing seam, and I didn't even talk about it. So standing seam so standing seam and metal total. So we've got standing seam metal roofing. Let me just get rid of the standing seam and talk about different metal roofing types. And it's not really a type so much as it is a what am I trying to say? A product, a mold, the way it goes. So all of these are now, you can get all sorts of different shapes and sizes in metal. All right, so just tons and tons and tons of different types of metal roofs that emulate other types of roofs, shingles, shakes, and we're going to talk about the ceramic tile as well. So there's tons of different types of metals that you can get nowadays. Probably the cheapest is the corrugated or the 5V. The 5V is what we used to think about putting on a barn. And then we've talked about the master rib, and then the corrugated is actually what I used for my tiny house. It was $10 a sheet at the time, and that was last year. It was $10 a sheet at Lowe's. God knows what it is nowadays. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And then the other thing about metals is you can get it in tons and tons of different colors. So these are baked on metals or baked on colors. And so they will scratch, you can scratch the color off of them, but sun fading is, you will have some sun fading, but not a great deal. I don't know if any of you guys remember the old fiberglass panels, fiberglass roofing. Let's see if it shows some old ones. Yeah, here we go. So these things here would disintegrate after about 10, 12 years in sunlight. So this is not the best type to put on. These are some new types that are a reinforced type fiberglass corrugating roofing, and these do last much longer. They're not going to last as long as the metals. The metals by far are the best. Now, a lot of people have asked me, how much does a metal roof cost versus a shingled roof? Well, you're looking at twice the cost. Okay, but here's something to look at. Metal roofing. Now, talking about the 5V that I was showing you just a minute ago, that was the type of roof that was on a barn that my grandfather helped work, and I can't find that 5V now. But nevertheless, so metal's going to cost you twice as much. All right. My father was born in 1925, and he was 9 years old. So 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34. So 1934, a metal roof was put on a barn, and there's that 5V that's on about. Was put on a barn at my grandfather's house, and it's still there. Okay, 1938. So how long is that? 2020 less 1938. 82 years. Okay, what did I say? A shingle roof lasted you. An architectural, you might get 50 years. A 3-tab shingle, you might get 25 years. But we've got 82 years out of the metal that's on the barn at my grandfather's house, and it still does not leak. Okay, now we did have to go through there. We had to change out some nails. The old nails that was on there were lead nails, lead-headed nails. So we went back with this these type here, but on the 5V, so you got the 5V, and there is also, while I'm thinking about it, there's a right and left hand. So that master rib that I was showing you a minute ago, there's also, so you got a right and left hand on the standing seam. You got a right and left hand on the 5V, and I'm going to make this, I'm going to cheat a little bit. So this is the master rib. It doesn't look this terrible, but there's the master rib. So on the master rib, you've got a right and left of this. So this goes on top of the next row. All right. So if you don't get it right, you can get some leaks out of it. And the same here. This goes on top of the other. So make sure that you get your right and left hands and you're looking out. Anyway, so in the day, nails were put on the ridge because they were lead-headed nails. In other words, you had a nail, and then it was encased in lead, so that when you nailed it down onto a ridge, it would seat itself, and it wouldn't allow for rain to come in through here. But like I say, nowadays, this is what we use. You can't even buy lead-headed nails, to my knowledge. I can't find them anywhere. So when we went back and replaced the nails that we did on my grandfather's barn, we used these type of screws here. We just had to be careful as to, make sure that we put a screw or nail back into the same hole that we had one coming out. So when you're, go over to that Union corrugating site and look at the different accessories and stuff that they have there. There's tons and tons of different type of accessories, from ridge caps to starter strips to the hip and valley flashings, just all kinds of stuff. And I'm already, getting on towards 4 o'clock now, so I'm not going to just keep going because my voice is starting to go on me. I just want to get through the rest of these before we stop. And you know what? I may just go ahead and stop anyway, and then that way we can continue on with some others on Wednesday. So metal shingles are becoming a big thing now because they're easier to put up than the metal. When I say metal, the metal roofing, these come up as panels, so they're big, long panels. They're harder to maneuver up a building. They're harder to transport if they're very long. How long can you get them? You can buy them as long as you want, and you want to pay the shipping costs. Currently, the longest transfer truck out there, flatbed, is 53 feet. You can buy these every day 53 foot long. Matter of fact, I bought some that are 20 foot long the other day to do my woodshed. And I had to make special arrangements to get them home because I didn't have a trailer that was 20 foot long. Basically, I just got me some 16 foot long wood pieces and screwed them together so that they were 20 foot long. And then I put them, I clamped them onto my trailer, which we loaded these on, and that way they didn't bounce and bend going down the road. But with metal shingles, obviously you can buy them in packs and you can make them look like anything. You know, you can make it look like shingles or shakes or I mean, you know, you can buy them in gold color, copper color, if that's what, you know, really floats your boat. Not my boat, but you know, you can, you know, and you can even get really cool looking designs out of, you know, we're talking money here. You can't hide money. So, okay. So like I say, it is on 4 o'clock. I've been talking for an hour and a half now. So on Wednesday, we're going to continue on with our roofing. I don't want to go too fast through this and miss some of the important things. I want to be able to, you know, talk about all of the things so that you understand what's going on and how it's being used. So for right now, I will talk to you later. Hopefully, I will not have any more computer problems because I am going to chuck this thing out the window as soon as we get off here and yeah, and see what I can do. Guys, have a great day, and I will see you back here on Wednesday.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.